Hey, welcome back, guys. Today I'm going to unbolt this master cylinder. It's actually been worked on before. I believe what I had done in the past is just replace this reservoir because it was leaking at one point, so that's new. But one thing that I have found on this truck, on this Suburban, is that it's a 97 Suburban. One thing that I found is that the pedal doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. So what I'm going to do is I went ahead and first off did a little research on this, and somebody somewhere went ahead and upgraded this master cylinder to a new body style master cylinder. Now the problem that we're going to have is that these ports are both 1/2 by 20, as you can see the caps here. Okay, the 1/2 by 20 indicates the steel tube nut, right, that attaches here. So on this OBS we have 1/2 by 20 back here, which appears to be on a 3/16 line, and up here on the front is a 9/16 by 18 on 1/4 inch line. So on the research that I did, somebody basically found that you can undo the steel tube nut here, put a brass adapter to get it to fit to the new body style master cylinder, and basically just go that way. I was able to find some steel tube nuts that are, getting to focus here, 1/2 20 on 1/4 inch tube. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and, before I start ripping anything apart, I'm going to unbolt the master cylinder. I'm gonna see if I can fit first of all, if the bore matches up here, if everything bolts up in place, if this all lines up good, then the next thing to do would be to basically cut this old steel tube nut off, which is the incorrect thread pitch, sorry, and go ahead and double flare a new nut on there. So I'll be doing that today. Hopefully I run into no issues, but I'd like to share also what I did at the same time. Is I've already done the rotor upgrade on this just recently, and I actually went through, as part of the rotor kit, it came with all these little rubber gaskets here. So there's a rubber gasket here, and then inside of here there's 2 O-rings right about here and here, and then on the front face of this there's like another gasket, okay, and that's where your sliding happens, right, as your caliper is working. So I did that on my old original calipers. The problem with that is that I feel my pedal sticks a little bit. I mean, I get great braking power, okay, except for the fact that it still feels mushy. But I think that the majority of the work is being handled by the front brakes only, and very little from the rear. So with that issue should be solved. The mushy pedal and the whole, basically what I feel is front braking power only, should be solved by this master cylinder, because we should have a more even distribution of braking power once this is put in place. But at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and change out the calipers. As you all know, I may have made mention before, I do a lot of shopping on Rock Auto, especially for parts that I don't need in a hurry. So I try to stay away from local parts places, because they, for one, offer a lot more variety. And for $40 a piece on these calipers made by PowerStop, PowerStop part number PWRS4299, I felt like this should help with the dragging sensation that I'm feeling once I release the brakes. So it's a nice upgrade to do. These, I was able to find these here, part number BLF-44C-5. I was able to find these at Pep Boys. It took a little bit of research, but I was able to locate those. And then this master cylinder kit is by Cardone or Cardoni, and part number is 13-2881, right? The calipers came with the new copper crush washers that is to be installed with the new brake lines that are right here. The brake lines actually have been replaced on this truck as well, so that should be good to go. And then I took basically I ordered 10 of these brake fluids. They're very expensive online, when you get them locally, but I'm going to give these a shot. I don't know the difference between brake fluid. I mean, to me, if it's approved DOT3, then I'm just going to give it a shot. But these were only like $1 a piece and just a little bit of shipping involved. So I felt like that was a great deal, because I'm tired of paying $7 for you know, the stuff that you find in the stores. So give that a shot, see how it works. But just to kind of bring you guys up to speed here and see what's happening. But I'm really excited about this master cylinder upgrade more than I am about these calipers, because these calipers are still only single pistons, right? But for $40 a piece, they're, you know, nicely painted, and they should last hopefully a good while. And at least I'd be gaining the fact that they're not going to be sticking when I release the brake pedal. So a little bit more to come. Thanks for joining me today, and hopefully you find all this information useful. All right, so calipers in place. I did use the new crush washers that came in with it. Well, it's gonna be real dark in here, you won't be able to see it, but anyway, when you put your line on there, let's see if we can see it from here. You can catch a little glimpse of it there. But anyway, when you put the bolt in, the banjo bolt, make sure you use the new copper washers so you can get a good seal. Recently replaced rotors along with the brake pads, and again, I thought that perhaps the caliper might have been sticking, so both sides have been done. Better shot of this one here. It wasn't too messy. I just basically opened up the lines and let all the fluid drain out after I drained the master cylinder. So I basically took like a little turkey baster and got all the fluid out of this one, and then I opened up my lines down here and just let it drain into a pan. Went pretty smoothly, but the biggest problem that I see is going to happen here is you can see where the old master cylinder lined up here. So we've got about a 2.5 inch difference. So not only, I mean, this line here, the 3/16 line, is a little easier to bend and move around, but this quarter one is a little bit stiffer, so I'll have to get a little creative with that one. But the whole idea here is just to see what the fitment was going to look like there. So that's the new body style master cylinder and how it looks in comparison to the old one. Get a shot of it here this way. Doesn't look like you're going to have any issues with it closing the hood or anything like that, which I was a little concerned about considering how high this or how tall this reservoir is. So looks like we're okay. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to bend these lines around a little bit so I can get this one. For sure is going to match up. Just got to bend it, like I said, but this one here is a little bit thicker, and it's going to give me a little bit of a fight, but I'm sure I'll be able to get around it. So after I found that the master cylinder will bolt up, the bore is not exactly the same. If I bring you over here, I'll show you. There's actually quite a difference in the sizes here. Looks like the old 97 has a larger diameter bore, but I think the internals is what really comes to play right here. So even though everything bolts up, and we're going to be gaining obviously something in here that whether it be the proportioning difference or whatever the case is, hopefully the spongy pedal will go away. But this old 97 does have a larger bore than the new body style one. So I went ahead and test fit that. It's all gonna fit. It mounts perfect. Now I have to cut off this piece right here, remove this 9/16 by 18, and then once I cut that piece off, you might be wondering how it's going to get remade. And I realize that most of you may not have a tool like this. I purchased this because I do quite a bit of LS conversions, and I deal with a lot of fuel lines and transmission lines, and now this is going to come into play with the brake lines. So this tool, I want to say it was around $300, but it definitely has paid itself off because of all the fuel line push connect fittings that I've made. But what we're going to use today is a 1/4 inch die. Okay, so once we cut that line, we're going to basically put this die in here. We're going to square off the line so that the line is basically flush with the top of this, and then this gets jammed into the line. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. But basically it's your 1/4 inch 45-degree inverted, right? And so what this does is it gets jammed into the line, and it kind of curls the tube onto itself. Okay, so then once you've done that, then you follow it with a cone, and then you basically push the cone onto it, and it flattens out the remainder of that flare, and it finishes off that double flare. So very important tool to have if you guys do any amount of converting, or you guys are in there playing around with fuel lines and all that kind of stuff. I would highly recommend getting this kit. And I have made a mention before when I was making some fuel lines for the C10 Chevy pickup. But anyway, here's this again, and it looks like it's part number 71475. So pretty neat tool to have. I'm going to go ahead and get started by cutting off that line, and then of course that fitting gets taken off and we put on the new 1/2 by 1/4. So I've already cut that flare off here, right? Here's the 9/16 by 18, right? So set that there. All right, so the little piece that I took off obviously fit in here, right? And that's what went into the master cylinder. So that's the correct, well, that's the line that came off my truck, the little piece. But as you can see, here's the new nut with the correct fitment, and then so we're just going to go ahead and drop that line in there, and it fits. So we're going to go ahead and slide this new nut on and go ahead and do the double flare. So positioning this tool is a little difficult while it's on the vehicle, or while the line is on the vehicle. So I've just gone ahead and taken off that small section of brake line that goes on to the ABS. Comes off pretty simple. I mean, it's already been drained of all the fluid anyway. But here's what the brake line looks. I mean, once I cut off that one little section of flare, it just barely left just enough space there to have the nut in place. And then again, here's the brake line right in there, and then we're going to go ahead and install the couple dies, get it flared up, and then go ahead and reinstall it into the vehicle. So this is after the first die went in there. As you can see, it kind of bubbled everything out, made that little kind of like the mushroom at the very tip of that. So we're going to go ahead and then chase it with the cone, and then open up the inside of that so it'll make a good seal. Cone has already been installed. I went ahead and pushed it through, and as you can see, it went ahead and made a nice mating surface. So once I put this on, everything should seal up just fine. Well, everything looks good. Here's the new steel nut. I was able to go ahead and get that all flared up all right. And because there was additional material here looped around with the original lines, I was able to basically take them off and basically just take up some slack there and move them around a little bit. But everything is tight now. Everything's back to normal. So I'm going to go ahead and get my power bleeder kit and see if I can get these brakes bled and give this thing a test drive. But I think I'll just one more time just go around and make sure that all these fittings are nice and tight, and proceed with the brake bleeding procedure. Alright, so everything's in place here. Another useful tool is the Motive Products power bleeder. We got the reservoir here. We got some fluid filled up to here, and then I've already gone through and filled up this master here all the way up to there. So obviously clean new fluid. We're going to raise the pressure here to no more than 15 pounds psi. I'll probably go around 5 or 10 just to kind of get an idea of what's going on. But you just go through the normal procedure. You start at the passenger rear, then you go to the driver's rear, and then the passenger front, and then the driver front, and then hopefully we'll have a nice pedal here coming soon.